Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewie, how are you, love?
Kia ora, Pat. I'm lovely and warm and fluffy and just generally pretty adorable.
Nice. Sad day in New Zealand. I've just seen this. There's this thing in New Zealand called Discord, Chewie. You might not know about it. Only the cool kids know about it. But this picture is up on our Discord at the moment. Someone put it up there, and it's it's very sad. It's a very sad day in New Zealand politics, and we are going to talk about this. We are going to Debbie Naroa-Packer talk to 3 News for 9 minutes. We may play that whole conversation. TVNZ obviously did coverage of it, but just as a heads up, we're going to do this as the last story of the day because I didn't know how to go and he called Donald Trump daddy. Now let's talk about one of our MPs passing. It didn't feel like there was a way to transition out of it. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be disrespectful, but it didn't feel like anything that I could think of, even doing it in the most respectful way.
Dude.
Yeah. So we're going to do that as the last story of the day. And there's one thing about it to do with Parliament, and I'm being very careful not to make it sound like this is about us and me, but I am. Oh, shall I just tell you now? I'm really grumpy about one thing, like just specifically from Parliament. The government that refused to allow Te Pāti Māori to address tikanga in the House when they suspended them are now celebrating the tikanga in the House as a way to respond to the passing of someone.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, you can't have some of it and just ignore the parts that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. It just made me mad, man. It made me mad. Anywho, we are going to talk. I want to offer an apology, first of all, because we haven't put it out there yet, but Chris Finlayson is not coming on tonight. I've had 3 or 4 conversations with Chris Finlayson today, and it just doesn't seem to want to happen tonight. Chris said yes, then he said no, and then he said audio only, and then he said, oh, okay, I guess we can do it that way, and then he said, can we do it next week? I'm not feeling the best. And so I tried. It doesn't sound like Chris is trying to jump through loopholes to get out of here. It just seems that he really has got a lot on, obviously, who we're talking about, and that we probably will catch up with him next week, I think. So, but because of that, and because the conversation is talking around why this settlement in one hit, like a one-off settlement, is a stupid idea, which is his position for Ngāpuhi. I don't have the background or the knowledge or the understanding to speak to it in any kind of credible way. So I think we need to bring experts in to speak about it. So we're not avoiding that subject. We're just waiting till we get the experts to talk about it, if that makes sense. So that story is basically gone from tonight's show. I have brought in another story which we haven't talked about or led up, but I think it's another chance, as we always do, to congratulate good policy, no matter who brings it in. Government passing laws yesterday about victims to get the final say over naming sex offenders under a new law. really good legislation. I really, really like that. And so congratulations needs to be given to Paul Goldsmith and also Mark Mitchell, who had a part of that. I even said his name. Did you notice that, Chewie? Because I was being respectful.
Yeah, just a normal person's name said normally.
Person's name. I don't.
That's what happens when you do a good policy.
I am feeling a little on edge tonight, guys. You might have picked that up already. So we'll just chat about tonight's show and we'll get through it. But also that that legislation did get 100% support. So this government brought it in. Congratulations to them, but it's supported by everybody because the person who should decide whether someone who has offended them gets to keep it secret forevermore should be the person who's been offended. So I think it's good legislation, and I've just got a written article about that we won't get to as well, and also obviously Takutai at the end of the show. As I said, depending on how the show runs and what we're going to do, we may open up Discord. If you want, I'll put it like this: if you want to have a chat with us tonight, I'm not going to make any promises, just because we will really see how the show goes versus how it goes. But if you want to be involved, you can just jump into Discord, and I'm sure that Kiwi Skirt will put up a link in there, and cruise over here. Look, I'll even start us off by getting in there to the live call and get it going. Yep, the voice is all connected now, and all you need to do is come across here to the left hand side and go into the waiting room. If you can see it right above the live call in. I think we probably will have a chance to speak to some people tonight. If you want to speak to us about anything that's gone on the week that's gone, Discord tonight. So what we are going to do at the start of the show tonight, it is part of the show notes, is talking about David Seymour and David Seymour's next controversy on some levels. And this has been brought up in stuff.co.nz. And it says why a tiny Parliament crest on David Seymour's Victim of the Day post has raised big questions. And long story short, which no one else picked up on, I certainly didn't pick up on it yesterday. At the bottom of
chat did.
Oh, did they?
It's been mentioned in the chat right from the get-go that this had the parliamentary crest on it. I was just sitting here going, oh, you smart cookies. And it's taken the media this long to catch up.
It goes to show who leads the world in media commentary. It's the BHN chat section. The comment section. It's the opposite of the NZ Herald comment section. This is the one where you get stuff. And because it's got authorised by Todd Stevenson, MP, Parliament Buildings, Wellington, and it's got the seal, that basically speaks to the idea, I think as it says just up here, that Parliament sort of endorses these words. Anyway, it does say in there somewhere. It's pretty much talking about it. I saw an article, I think that's the right word, written by Dr. Kevin Veal today. Kevin Veal is from Massey University, and to start the show off tonight, we're going to bring Kevin on and have a chat about his The Conversation post, which is Playful or Harmful. David Seymour's post raised question about what's okay to say online, and also we may have a look at the parliamentary seal in there as well. So can we welcome to the show Dr. Kevin Veal. Kevin, good evening to you, and thank you so much for jumping in and joining us tonight.
Kia ora, everyone. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Sorry about the audio quality.
Yeah, we'll get there. It's all right. It's all right. Hey, why don't we first of all, give us the elevator pitch. Playful or harmful, David Seymour's post raised questions about what's okay to say online. The article you wrote started off, Deputy Prime Minister, ACT Party leader, said he's being playful and having fun with his Victim of the Day social media posts targeting opponents of the RSB. So why don't we just start there and you give us some of your takeaway from that, and we'll go from there.
From my perspective, it's online harassment. It's quite clear. I study online harassment. I've written a book about it. It's using a playbook that's more than 10 years old now. It is about exposing people to your followers in a way where those followers are going to do something, and you might not know exactly specifically what, but you know there's going to be a negative response. And like Tory whanau in your video the other day is 100% right. it is a known thing. It is a known pattern. Sanjana Hototwa, whose name I've probably just mangled, and who was not with the Disinformation Project, I made a mistake with that in the article, has already done research and published a thing about being able to track the extent to which abuse and harassment spikes based on all of these Seymour posts. And it's a very, very common pattern. It's old, it's known. You can go back before Gamergate. You can go back before all of these things. And it's dangerous. It's basically exactly what Brian Tamaki's been doing. It's just in a different context.
Yeah.
I'm now no longer sure I'm answering the question.
You are a senior lecturer and a doctoral co-supervisor, School of Humanities, Media and Creative Comms. So that means you're an academic, basically in communication. How would you explain your role to us? What you do for a paycheck?
Sure. I basically teach students how to understand the media landscape, both so that they can reverse engineer things to build their own media and communications, but also to look at kind of the power dynamics of the landscape and the stuff that we don't really even notice or think about because we've got like decades of experience of reading the media. And so if we come back to, it's like word choice, it's like choices of color, it's like how editing works, all of that kind of good stuff. But mostly it is about power dynamics in the media is kind of a lot of the meat and heart of things. And mostly my kind of specific niche is looking at storytelling and in a digital context. But what happened was that I was looking at storytelling in digital context in like the 2010s. And that was when I was looking at alternate reality games. And that was when a huge number of my friends and colleagues started to get just waves of online harassment. And what I noticed at that point was that it was working like an alternate reality game, but rather than being kind of this fun community that was kind of doing like a conspiracy ball with string of figuring out a mystery, the goal was to ruin someone's life or drive them to suicide.
So was that games like Second Life, that sort of thing? Where you had an alternative universe that you lived in and were a different person?
Not quite. That was kind of more of a specific game, but definitely the communities around it. But like you had things like there was one called The Beast, and that turned out to be promotion for like that old Spielberg movie AI. But it was this whole thing that there was a poster went up advertising AI, where one of the crew was listed as like this AI therapist. And if you did a web search for this person's name, it would pop up as being this person. And it was this beginning of a rabbit hole for this whole story world about being in the future and robot rights and all this kind of thing. So it wasn't quite like Second Life or virtual reality, but it's like storytelling almost through stuff hidden online in other things. But it's become like we don't really talk about alternate reality games so much anymore because they were so closely tied to promoting films. It was all kind of expensive. There was one called I Love Bees that turned out to be an ad for Halo 2. And so there was this kind of gap because they were so expensive to do. And it was very skilled. It required a huge amount of skill and organization because like what they did for I Love Bees was that this crew of creators came up with like a warehouse full of a maze of whiteboards. And they just filled this thing up with whiteboards. And they expected it to be a year worth of content. And the people who were in the community, they completed all of those puzzles in days. So it's like we're talking about with BHN chat, spotting things in pictures and things. It's exactly like that for storytelling. It's just one of the reasons we don't talk about alternate reality games so much is that we've effectively unleashed them on the world. We're like QAnon and all of this nonsense and the anti-vax weirdos and things. It is just taking over the world. It's the same kind of thing. This conspiracy of seeing patterns in everything. So basically I kind of have these two strands of research, getting back to the point, where one of the things I've been looking at is online extremism and abuse and harassment and kind of the ways that these things use social media. and the patterns that they work through. And one of the things that's really obvious, and one of the problems with it, is that social media companies profit from them, which is why they're very unmotivated to kind of stop it, because it all looks like activity. If somebody's being spammed with thousands of images telling them to kill themselves and with gifs of the Holocaust, it's great engagement. And so you can sell that to ads. You can sell that to advertisers.
Chewie, you're in the world of gaming and stuff. You got any thoughts, any questions, any comments around that side of things?
Yeah, I worked in gaming retail around the time that Gamergate was kicking off, and even then the feeling of how things changed and how people interacted with other people online changed dramatically. And seeing that morph over the years, like you quite rightly mentioned QAnon, and people just being almost terminally plugged in. Yeah. And I'm just going to pull on this thread and just keep pulling, even if it clearly connects to someone's real world life. I mean, a horrible example of that just recently was a person that uploaded videos of rehabilitating foxes and videos about foxes in the US. She was hounded online to the point of suicide. And it's just the people... There's a lot of people out there, I think, that had this disconnect between the real world and the online world. And if it happens in a message board, or if it happens in a series of fake accounts that you create, then it's not real. Or alternatively, they're just psychopaths and they just have no empathy. And when that crosses over, I think, into the political space, which we have seen a lot of, I'm very much on record saying that COVID broke people's brains, that they were nothing but online solidly for like a year or more. The rules of that game of like just keep pushing until it breaks is part of our political sphere now, especially online. And someone like David Seymour, with the ideologies that the ACT Party have, speaks to a certain type of supporter that I cannot believe that he can try for plausible deniability of like, oh, I'm just having fun, I'm just, that sort of thing. He must know that he has his own army of flying monkeys, and he's just basically flinging the window open and going, here is a publicly accessible figure, have at it, I didn't tell you to do it.
There's a number, I think you're absolutely right. And there's a number of things that's kind of reminded me of. In terms of real world consequences, the Christchurch terrorist, who I'm not going to name, is one of these people. The Christchurch terror attacks was entirely motivated by a guy who was showing off to an online community of extremists. He posted his manifesto on 4chan with the statement, I'm fed up of all of these useless shit posts. I'm going to make an effort post. And that was how he described the mass murder. It was an effort post
written on his weapon.
Yeah. And in terms of like the plausible deniability that Seymour has, you're absolutely right. Even if we hypothetically read David Seymour's mind that he's got no idea. It's like if you're on a bus and you stand on someone's toes, oops, you get off their toes, you say sorry. You do it again 2 minutes later, and then 2 minutes after that, that starts to look a little deliberate. So, he's been told that there are these consequences. He's been, people have talked to him about it, and he keeps doing it.
Including Tori Whānau. That was one of the things I wanted to make
clear in
her conversation. She said that she had talked to him about what he was saying and what it was doing to Goras. And I stopped the interview and I said, just to be clear, you're saying you spoke these words to him. He responded to you. This is first-hand experience. And she said, yes. So
precisely. Yes. I was really interested in that part of the video. So yeah, it is. He has no plausible deniability on this one. The problem is that there is this idea that online spaces and offline spaces are separate. You still get people who say, oh, just get offline. And our lives are online. They're braided. There is no online and offline. It's all the same. And one of the things that I've been talking about with online harassment is it never stays online. if you get traumatized, that stays with you. You carry that with you off into the woods. If you go for a walk, it's still there. It's with you. It's part of your life. And also, people come out of the internet and get into your life if they really want to come after you. And we've got all of these cases where somebody's done something like David Seymour has done, of single people out publicly, and people have come into their workplace. People have followed them home. People have, like there was a case with Anita Sarkeesian, who was kind of the person who was Gamergate before Gamergate, where somebody took a picture of her parents through her parents' window and said that you're not going to have parents in the morning, and didn't do anything. But the whole point was to say, I have means, motive, and opportunity. Haha. What if I did? What if I do it tomorrow?
Here in Dunedin, when we had Aaron Hawkins, a very left-wing mayor, he's often spoken about how the fact that his address was publicly accessible, and people would leave things in his letterbox or go onto his property and that sort of thing. And he's quite often pointed out the fact that politicians, by nature of the rules around politics and that sort of thing, are exposed in that way. They're accessible because of their job. The people know where they work because of their job, and then often their home addresses are publicised or publicly available at least.
Can I just say, let me add something in here, because when I was working on ZB, I received death threats to my mailbox at home. I received a letter hand-delivered to my letterbox home saying, see how easy it is to find you. Since I've been doing this job, there's been one incident that we've been to the police, which was a death threat made towards Chewie and I. I told you about that, Chewie? I'm sure I told you about that.
Yep.
It wasn't too much to worry about, but it's like, we want this on record because it was a known person who runs in that world. And just in the last few weeks, some incel little operator has put my address on Twitter, to which I've again informed the police. So I was going to kind of ask this question, which may not be so relevant right now. It's a bit embarrassing, but when I was a kid, one of the movies I could watch, like, you get those movies you can watch to the end and then you go to the start and watch it again. For me, that was Demolition Man when I was younger. And for right now, for me, it seems to be Ready Player One. I've probably seen it 10 times, and if I see it on, I can just watch it. Ready Player One paints this world of people living online, but it seems that the living they're doing online is like, when I say good, I guess I'm not putting a moral judgment on it, but it doesn't seem to be full of all the trolls and the nastiness that we're talking about. And what I guess I'm wondering is, back to when I was at ZB, they used to say things about us on Trade Me message boards, and now they're saying things about us on Twitter, and they're saying things about us on on Facebook and that sort of thing, or in comments sections. Where are we going in the world now that we've sort of started this conversation slightly differently now? Are we going towards a Ready Player One? Or are we going towards 4chan becomes 8chan, becomes 16chan, becomes the world's now blowing
Mad
up?
Max.
Yeah. Like we talked about Twitter the other day, calling it Nazi blue sky. So where do we go to? What's our direction?
What the direction I think is really troubling at the moment that we've seen overseas, that we're seeing now, is that basically Seymour is digging into the Kiwi farmsification of politics. We've, the whole thing with Gamergate and this profitable online harassment and things. I had a kind of crisis in 2016, 2017, because I've been writing this research. And then all of these really bad actors who I was keeping track of, who were central pillars in kind of online harassment, targeting particularly women and people who were not straight, white, cis, able-bodied dudes, got invited into Trump's cabinet at that point. And so that pattern is still there. We've got Elon Musk buying Twitter and kind of weaponizing it and taking it over. And now Seymour is doing the same thing here. So it is a pattern that we're starting to see escalate. And it really needs to be nipped in the bud as hard as we possibly can. But the thing with Seymour is that there's two main things that worry me. One of them is he's clever. We don't talk about him enough as being clever. We talk about him being rimmer. We talk about him being a clown. We talk about him being one of the world's just most awful people. But he's clever. He's extremely practiced with this. Like Tori Whanau said, basically, Tori Whanau was 1,000% right for everything she said. He is a practiced operator, and everything he does orients around power. He's very good at it. He uses civility and kind of the colonial landscape of New Zealand as a weapon. He's constantly, if you look at parliamentary video, he's constantly needling Te Pāti Māori MPs and interrupting them with little points of order. And kind of just basically indicating constantly, this is a landscape that suits me. This is a landscape that reflects me. It's comfortable for me. All of this kind of thing. And the other thing that worries me is that, we talk about Seymour, but it's not just him. It's not just even that there's other MPs in the party. It's that there is a whole broader infrastructure in Aotearoa that it's not even that he's normalized. It's that he's already normal. So if you start talking about the fact that he's a very dangerous guy, you seem extreme, and you're
he's mainstream. Like when you say he's not normal, he's mainstream. He's the current acting prime minister, for God's sake.
He's the current acting prime minister, and but the media landscape is way too comfortable with just parroting and uncritically repeating these points of information, and they like him because he's interesting, because he starts these fights, he does things. Like I can only speculate as to why. But we can say that the way that Seymour is treated is wildly different, obviously, to say Wahine Māori in Parliament. When and like we're digging into the whole media studies thing about looking at structural racism, structural sexism. When Taud Muller had a mental health crisis, people were everywhere saying, we're going to take this very, very seriously. We're going to, this is about respect. This is about care. And then when Kerry Allen has a mental health crisis, what happens? She gets chased down the road by reporters. When Dolores Garriman has a mental health crisis, because partly of all of this abuse, she's not even an MP anymore. She's years out from being an MP. She's just a citizen. She gets news articles devoted to her everyday life. The levels of respect are wildly different. And it's like, if you talk about this, people say, are you accusing us of being racist? I can say, I don't know, but there's a pattern, and it's a racist pattern. Where's it coming from? Is it coming from kind of, there's so many people in the media in New Zealand who I enormously respect and do great work. But at the same time, we can say the machine is making sausage, and it's not good sausage. It is, in fact, radioactive, poisonous sausage. I've lost control of the metaphor here. But this is an outcome we're seeing. And all we can say is, where is that coming from? How do we interrupt this?
Well, also, if it's an outcome we're seeing, right, picture a wave coming towards us, is there a way to ride and tame this wave, or do we just have to hang on and go with the flow and we have no control over where it's going to end up?
I think there are ways of steering it. Getting people off Twitter is a really good idea. This is about people in the BHN chat. If you're on Twitter, please stop. Go to Blue Sky. I have issues with Blue Sky. There's Sky as well, but it's better than Twitter in the same way that getting kicked in the head is better than Twitter. Kicked in the head by a horse. So, the social media landscape that we're in matters a lot to our mental and emotional health and our ability to just survive without getting traumatized. So Twitter, bad. Getting politicians off Twitter would matter a lot. I think, because so many of them are trying to do outreach there. They're trying to do outreach on Facebook. A lot of these platforms are actively hostile to democracy. And this is where I sound like my own tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. But like, if you look at it, it's true. Facebook helped drive literal genocide in Myanmar, and then nothing's really happened as a consequence of that. But it was profitable. So, we can do this. It's just that we have to treat the social media landscape as not neutral. It's not neutral to our mental health. It's not neutral to our democracy. And so the further we can get these conversations happening into better environments, the healthier people will be. But front loading kind of, where are the most vulnerable people among us? How do we keep them safer? How do we let them lead conversations that doesn't expose them to harm? Because that's one of the paradoxes at the moment, and a lot of the kind of the Nazi presences in society are very aware of this. So this is like why we can ask, why is it that Tory Whanau and Dame Anne Salmon have been presented as they're the people to talk to about this issue from David Seymour, when it's David Seymour's issue? They didn't invent it. They're not coming up with this out of nothing. They're the ones making complaints about an existing thing. He's not being interviewed about this. The people at risk are.
Let me just share something before we start to wrap. I approached salmon, isn't it? It's like salmon, the meat, salmon.
I probably got it wrong. I often do.
To come on and have a chat about it, and her response is basically needs a break from the brouhaha. I'm sure you're understanding how demanding it all is. So basically, because of David Seymour, she has now chosen to eliminate herself from the conversation that she had such an important part to play in. Like, she has an important view to have, but because of what Seymour did, that then flew through to his incel family, that then lumbered on top of the dame, she's now gone, I just need a break, and she's out. Yeah, so as Chewie said, so job done, Seymour.
Job done.
That's one less criticizer.
This is one of the things that we can talk about with Seymour. I said earlier, everything he does is oriented around power. Like, putting Dame Salmon on this derangement syndrome, whatever he's calling it, thing, is a sign in many directions at once. He's an extremely effective communicator, because they said it doesn't matter what level of political mana you have. It doesn't matter what your background is. If you cross me, I'm going to throw you to the wolves. And that will have been heard loud and clear. He does things like this. This stuff shows that he's powerful. He does other stuff where it's not even that important, but it shows that nobody's stopping him. He's been escalating recently, and all of the stuff of Luxon's not stopping him, and it's all about power. And so it's about, he's very good at it, because like the whole derangement syndrome thing, that is simultaneously insulting people, like Tory Whanau said. Again, she was right in every particular. It's insulting and dehumanizing people. It's discrediting them and kind of framing them as not somebody to listen to. It divides the world symbolically, so that it creates two audiences. There's the people who agree with him, who are sensible, and then there's the people who are humorless and who thus shouldn't be taken seriously. And, we live in an incredibly ableist society. Deranged people are understood to be dangerous. Now, hopefully, the BHN chat all know that people with mental illness are far more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators of violence. But in terms of setting people up as people who your mob might go after, telling your mob, these people are deranged, they're not safe, it is part of dehumanizing things as well. It's dehumanizing and escalating the possibility that they're a risk. The same thing happens with with TERFs and people going after trans people. Trans people are mentally ill, they say. Mentally ill. And like the media landscape says, mentally ill people are dangerous. So, you have, and then we, I'm just frothing now, but it's a pattern. These patterns map. It's the structure of power. You know, TERFs are doing it for one thing. David Seymour is doing it for something else. David Seymour has supported TERFs in the past for various political reasons. But, you know, it's the same machinery. It's the same kind of pattern, but it's being used for different purposes in different contexts. It's all a bit fractal. You see the same thing repeating again and again in different scales and different directions.
Kevin, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I'm glad we set this up and we ran with it. Chewie, is there anything you want to wrap with? Anything you want to finish up with Kevin with?
I do have. I am interested in your thoughts on this. I think when it comes to political tragics like us, the terminally online, the politically siloed, all of that sort of stuff. when we look at what someone like David Seymour is doing, and we can identify what he's doing, and we can cut through the fig leaves that he puts in front of it, the deniability, the layers of deniability that he has, or the fact it's a multi-pronged thing. You can point at one thing and he'll deny it, but the other three things are still valid. How do you sort of point that out to people of like, I know what he's doing, you haven't seen it yet, and not seem insane?
I have some theories. I mean, the main thing is that we don't talk to like the diehard act supporters. That the time we spend is about the people who think he's a cheeky chappy. This is all a bit of a gas, and we can say, well, I don't understand. Why is this joke funny? And you know, just turn it around. And like you get people who say, oh, well, he's being shut down by all of these people who disagree with him. So you don't think he can handle debate? How does this make sense? And just, you know, getting people asking these questions. And one of the things I hoped to do with the conversation piece and the links in it was like, there's going to be a bunch of people who, like, fascists love hypocrisy. It shows that they're powerful. It shows they don't have to follow the rules. But there's going to be people in National who might be considering ACT and other things who won't like the hypocrisy. So pointing out, you know, this guy is saying he's just making a joke when he's really gone after people for making jokes about him. That kind of thing might break them off. But mainly it's just kind of the best thing I can think of is building community with people who are less safe than we are, asking them what they need. We've got like the Pāti Māori, we've got the Greens, we've got people who are kind of engaged in this and making sure that they're as safe as possible going forward to kind of have these conversations. One thing I will say is that like a lot of this is about cult deprogramming. And a lot of people I know say, you know, you've got somebody who's really into ACT, you've got somebody who's into white supremacy, etc. You know, we have to talk them down. And just the thing I want to say is the odds of you being harmed or joining them down the rabbit hole are far higher than you being able to talk them out of it. Don't abandon them, but like, this is something that trained professionals do because it is dangerous long-term work. And it's actually some things that people do for recruitment. They try to get people to talk them out of it. And then they say, well, I'm going to show you, come with me, and kind of take people in. I'm now rambling completely. I'm sorry I've taken over your show, but just like,
no.
Look after yourselves. Look after yourselves. Don't let people be an anchor that's going to wreck your mental health because you have to apply your own oxygen mask first. Build community with people who will support you and make you want to live your best, most vibrant life rather than people who are just energy vampires. And, you know, you're trying to make them less vampiric. Yes. That's a good goal, but it's not worth it. The progress requires us to have enough energy to fight. And if you're just talking to these people the whole time, trying to drag them up, it's not going to work out well in the long run.
Hey, Kevin, it's been a pleasure speaking to you tonight. Thank you for jumping in. I think we've made a little connection here that maybe we can see again being used in the future. So that
would be amazing.
And then maybe when you're up neck of the woods, we can come and speak to some of your graduate students about communication or something. Is that right, James?
That would be amazing.
Yep. How to do everything wrong in 30 seconds or less. We can do that. Kevin, thanks for your time, man. We really appreciate you giving us some thoughts.
Thank you very much for having me.
All the best. Let's get straight away to the shade I was getting in the chat when we talked about getting off Twitter. Please, Pat, stop. Yes, Pat. Pat, are you listening? Got suspended on Twitter. What a blessing in disguise. Yeah, all right. I feel you.
Look,
feel you.
There is... So, as Kevin was saying with deprogramming, like I think when you're interacting with other people on social media, that there's a tendency to want to win because that's a natural thing, right? The power of my argument is so strong that I don't feel the need to discuss it. But we do. We love to discuss it. I'm talking from my own personal truth here. I love an internet fight. I love wading into something and just trying to prove something wrong. But in an online discussion like that, there's no winners. Nobody wins. You end up mad. They seem smug about it. Maybe they're mad at home. Who knows? But there's no winner. I think what Kevin says there right at the end echoes so many of our guests when we ask the question of how do you navigate this world? The state of things, locally, politics, globally, that sort of thing. And the answer that we have got from so many guests is almost exactly the same. Build your community. Change the things that you can change, and don't burn up your energy with things that you can't. And I think that's why the BHN community is so important. That's why it's important to join a political party if you think that that's going to help you. Maybe it's something smaller. Maybe it's something incredibly personal just to you, or maybe it's just making sure that you surround yourself with good people that make you feel good. Now, I think there's another part of that, which is like when you're talking about deprogramming and not just cutting people out, you might be that person's only hole in their echo chamber.
Yeah.
And sometimes the gentle approach, or just existing as yourself, and you might be the only pinprick of light that that person sees among their own little rabbit hole that they've disappeared in. And it might just be a case of you're not going to win that argument with them, but you're still going to be there as much as you can. And I'm not saying put yourself at a emotional debt to do it, but that person might come back to you. That's important.
Could that argument not be made for the Twitter thing as well? I mean, like,
well, if
we got off Twitter, like the only thing I really do on Twitter is post this stuff, right? But if we got off it, then this stuff's no longer on Twitter. I don't really ever interact or engage. The very odd occasion I do, but 99% of what goes up on Twitter from me is this show and clips from this show. So it's do we want to be in the ugly places to try and bring some light, or do we want to avoid the ugly places so we don't become ugly ourselves and we protect our sanity?
I don't think there's necessarily a bad option there. Yeah. I mean, I drew my personal line at Twitter. And just this is a zero-sum game for me. And it was a mental health thing. When I saw the changes to the algorithm when Elon took over, it was a night and day switch. That the recommended channels to me, the recommended channels to me were ACT or Elon or Judith Collins or all of this sort of stuff. It was rage engagement. It was a fire hose of sewage through my living room window. And as much as I like having online arguments from time to time, this was unescapable. And then it just got worse from there. So I pulled the pin. Now, I'm not one to have anything more than teasing judgment towards Pat here. He decided to stay. But yeah, he might be that lifeline to pull someone out of that rabbit hole. Or he'll wake up one day and go, you know what I want? A snazzy red, black and white armband.
All I've said about Twitter, and I'll stand by this, is I use it for business. And as soon as Blue Sky has the capacity to carry video and stuff like Twitter does, I'll be over there. I am there in a small way now. They just don't operate. Blue Sky does not yet operate in a way that I need it to operate to be able to do our content. So, and for me, that's all it is. So,
Citizen Gold has done exactly what I've done. So for me, I've kept my Twitter account because I'm not willing to let my username be used by some right-wing arsehole. I almost never use it. That was advice that I saw during the great Twitter exodus, was like, don't delete your account. Just shut it down. Like, leave it there. They can't use your username.
Interesting. All right, let's get to some of these chats and super chats and stuff as well, eh? Fetu, I appreciate your conversation, your kōrero. I'm not going to attempt tonight of all nights to mangle te reo in a way, so I'll leave it there for people to read for themselves. But thank you for your super chat. Obviously about Takutai there. Kiwi Bird says, told you about Todd being a naughty boy. Kiwi also says, Todd needs to work on the meme game. Dresnort says, mind blown. That was 9:15. I'm thinking that's the conversation from Kevin with that blue Dresnort's
We're blowing minds straight out of the gate.
Everywhere. There needs to be a definition of stochastic terrorism written into the Parliamentary Service Code of Conduct, along with no warnings for breaches. Yeah, interesting. Peter says, we're in Black Mirror already. Kiwi again says, Seymour is the final boss of Reddit debate lords.
Oh, God, is he what?
And JC says, I hate the algorithms. I've got friends that have been lost to that world, living on a benefit, but convinced by billionaires we should eliminate government, being scammed with crypto scams, becoming more misogynist, etc. Really sad. And probably that was, maybe I didn't ask it quite so eloquently, but that was the thing about the wave. I mean, are we able to manipulate the algorithm, or are we just at the whim of the algorithm, was kind of what I was getting to. Donna says, the Everything Protest Hui charity events, Beehive, July 19, 2021, spreads the word, bring flags, sign, and bucket for donations. Just a little advert there for you. We're pretty cheap to do an advert here, eh? It's only $8.99. You get to an advert on New Zealand's biggest internet show that's got BHN in the title. I was just been on Discord, and I don't normally do this. I might be stealing some stuff from Magenta and getting to the meme, but I saw this was posted just after 9 o'clock, and I kind of love it. Japan's First Lady is the level of petty I aspire to be. Japan's First Lady avoids talking to Trump by pretending not to know English for 2 hours.
Oh, that's
pretty good. That's pretty good. Yes, so as I said, we are going to finish tonight's show with some stuff around Takutai Moana Kemp. We are going to do a little bit now, the story that's not in the show notes about victims of crime being the ones to decide whether names get suppressed of the offender or not. And I think that will give us a bit of a small window. It might only be 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm happy to give it a crack tonight. If you would like to jump into Discord and have a chat, it will be short, to the point, your thoughts on something going on today. Maybe you want to pass on some thoughts or some comments to Te Pāti Māori or Takutai's family or anything. You've got the opportunity to do that. If you can see over on the left-hand side in the BHN channel down the bottom, there's a waiting room right there. Aiden's in the waiting room, and you jump in the waiting room and you wait, and we drag you over and have a chat with you in 3 to 5 minutes from now. And if it's just Aiden there, we'll talk to Aiden, and then we'll wrap up with talking about the very sad news from today. And if there's more than you, we'll go through a few and we'll see if you've got something to offer. We'll add it. But you know, we have long said on this show that we will criticize bad legislation no matter who puts it out, and we will congratulate good legislation no matter who puts it out. I suspect we're the only news adjacent show in New Zealand that actively broadcasts where they sit politically. that actively one half of this group acknowledges what political party they are now a member of. But we do call balls and strikes. This week we have been a bit critical of Te Pāti Māori with their press release on joining the war because they sent a Hercules plane to the Middle East to help get Kiwis out. And we have been positive around Mark Mistral and David Seymour's response to Destiny Church. So when anyone ever goes to you, oh yeah, but look at their bias, one-eyed, it's like, well, that's true. We do have bias and we are pretty one-eyed. But good policy will still be called good policy. Good ideas will still get called good ideas. And bad ones will still be called bad, no matter who does it. We just find that most of the time, the right do pretty shithouse ideas and the left do better ones. And that just seems to be how it is. Now, whether that's bias or whether that's just reality, I don't know. Here's one that I'm at least on board for congratulating this government for. And Chewie, you're in the same place. Victims get the final say over naming sex offenders under a new law. Parliament has unanimously passed legislation that will ensure the courts cannot issue a permanent name suppression order for an adult convicted of a sexual offence unless the victim agrees to it. The Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith said this made it crystal clear children could not consent to abuse. Oh, that comes back to the law was amended so that children under the age of 12 could not be questioned about whether they consented to sex or not. So Goldsmith said that now children can't be asked about, they can't consent to it no matter what. Yeah. The law further closes what Goldsmith says was a legislative gap by ensuring the victims of all sexual crimes, including intimate visual recording offences, which has been something of recent times, were automatically given name suppression. These changes will help ensure victims of sexual abuse and their needs are returned to the heart of the justice system. We've been clear from day one that victims are our priority as we work to restore law and order. Look, we can skip over some of the backslapping they're doing where some of their other, like it was like the other night, in isolation, that's all we're going to do, in isolation, we are congratulating them for this legislation. Because we could debate about that as we work to restore law and order, focus on victims. We won't get that debate tonight. In isolation, tonight, this one legislation, golf clap. Goldsmith said at present victims' views on suppression only had to be taken into account by the courts. Police Minister Mark Mitchell spoke on behalf of the Justice Minister during the third reading. It's abhorrent that the law allows questions about whether children enjoyed or agreed to sexual activity. We're fixing that. I agree. Yeah. I concur. Yep. It is unconscionable that victims feel silenced by our laws, especially when they've braved the scrutiny of the court process to prove their case. We're fixing that too. Mitchell said victims have been clear that name suppression settings had disempowered victims, preventing them from speaking out about their experiences and warning others. New Zealanders also believed the way children were questioned in court was unacceptable, or as Nanny Fine used to say, unacceptable. MP Kahurangi Carter spoke in favour of the bill on behalf of the Green Party. I know that we all feel this really heavily for victims under 12. It seems so obvious. I'm glad today we're bringing our legislation, our laws into line with what is right. Goldsmith recognised some victims would not want to make the decision about name suppression themselves. In those cases, the decision would rest with the courts. He believed that changes would assist in ensuring 20,000 fewer victims of violent crime by 2029. I'm intrigued about how they've come to this number. But, if that ends up what it's been, then that's amazing if that was the case. I wonder if what they're saying is with name suppression, people feel like they're freer to offend, maybe. Don't know. It would be interesting to have someone ask him about that. While the bill was passed unanimously, there were no Te Pāti Māori MPs in the House at that time. So, congratulations to the government for passing this. It's good legislation. I'm certainly fully in support of it. What about you, Chewie?
Yeah, look, I think that's a good move. Like, I think name suppression in these sort of cases is so important. And I mean, I'm not 100% sure if this was related to it, but like people used to get automatic name suppression to protect the victims. Like the offender would get name suppression to protect the name suppression of the victim.
Yep.
And then even in the cases of the victim going, well, I don't think that's fair, they actually had to go to quite high lengths to get rid of their own name suppression so the offender could lose theirs. Which
I've
just
always
seemed
thought
fucked.
I've always thought with name suppression, and I have talked about this before, is that everyone should get name suppression until a guilty conviction is in place, and that's when you decide. Because there are examples of people who are accused of a crime, found not guilty of a crime, but then that crime sticks with them for the rest of their lives. I just wonder if basically name suppression lasts with everybody until conviction, and then in this instance, the victim gets to decide. In other instances, I guess the courts get to decide. Anyway, that's just me. All right. Anything else on that, Chewie, or anything in the chat you want to get to quickly?
Just because we're talking about this once in a blue moon fucking unicorn, the government's actually done something good. Mm-hmm. The changes to you can get over the counter melatonin now.
Yep.
And the prescription magic mushrooms stuff. Yep. I think that's a good piece of legislation.
Okay.
Obviously not to the same impact as what we were just discussing, but I mean, I always found it funny, the melatonin thing, that you could just like literally leave New Zealand, go to a pharmacy and just buy it and bring it back with you. I brought some back from the US because sometimes they have trouble sleeping, and I don't want to take a harsher fucking knockout pill that just leaves you feeling shit. And melatonin's a lot better for you. And the stuff around psychedelics
I've never had melatonin.
Like it's something you can manufacture in your body for free. You just need the sun.
So people in Dunedin all should be on melatonin.
And as you get older, you make less of it. This is why old people tend to like just need to operate on 2 hours worth of sleep. So yeah, the thinking was that if it's completely unrestricted, then everybody's taking it and they can't make their own. I think that was the concern, but it's not seen as a problem overseas.
Yeah. All right. So there's 3 congratulations to the government this week.
And that's it. You've used them all now. It's just harshness. We know there's nothing else coming.
We're like genies. You only get 3. No more.
Yeah, that's
it for the rest of the time.
Because I can see people unsubscribing. No, this isn't what I'm here for.
Ian says chasing an algorithm is no way to communicate factual content and information. Hence, the importance of patrons. Yeah, that's very true, Ian. It's like
I'm calling it now. Let's go back to MySpace.
I've been watching a particular podcaster who last year, and we've already talked about him this year. I just don't feel the need to say his name again now. But last year he was, he was on Rover. It was abysmal in the ratings, and since he took a hard turn right, and especially started to smash on all his thumbnails, say something negative about Te Pāti Māori, they're all like between kind of 5,000 and 20,000 views per video now, which is good for New Zealand, and that, he is now chasing the algorithm. Negative, right-wing talking points, anti-Māori. You can see it. And you're right, because if we had to do that because we didn't have patrons, we would not put out the content that we wanted. There'd be times we put out content that we knew received good clicks. Now, sometimes when we do a chat, I know that it's going to get a good result online. Sometimes if there is a particular politician on a thumbnail, I know that that's going to get picked up by the algorithm, but we never do it to get picked up by the algorithm. It's a byproduct rather than a plan. And that's because, on TikTok, I did 2 TikToks last week. Both of them had Jacinda in the thumbnail because it was from the chat that we showed about Pod Save the World. And they were the 2 biggest TikToks on my feed. They both got about 20 or 25,000 views each from last year. And I knew it was going to do it. Now, I didn't try and crowbar in fact, I've got a 3rd one that I didn't put up because I'm like, oh, that's enough for Jacinda. So I could have put a 3rd one up to try and score another 30,000 views. We didn't. So the The views for us, when we know it's going to be good, are a byproduct. They're not the plan or the focus. When you look at this podcast that I'm talking about, it looks like it's the plan. Oh, we finally found the algorithm that's working for us. YouTube is finally giving us some money. No, not for us, not very much money. But you know, it's like we are able to stay away from that, mostly because of our integrity, but also because our patrons support us, and you support us because you want us to be news focused first rather than click through first, and that's what the others have to do. Sorry.
Yeah, and we've got to get our lawyers to sign off on the advertising campaign we've got with Lockheed Martin. But that's that. Forget I said anything.
And we're going to be introducing Free Speech Friday shortly, sponsored by the Free Speech Union. It's coming up as well. The danger of mouse. I don't get why, quote, our age, end quote, get involved in the BS of social media. I have almost no social media, but I'm still up to date with things. Dres not understanding chronic Xing disease, chronic shitting disease, as a metaphor is a wave, of a metaphor of a wave is poetry. As a metaphor,
that's a compliment for you.
Is poetry.
It's a compliment for you. What you said.
How much does it cost for an ad? Just tell me if you want this Donna again. Tell me if you want to stop all goods. I don't know. What do you reckon, Chewie? What's fair for an ad? $1,000? $1,000 for an ad? For an ad read? I don't know.
Okay. So you've just reminded, you know, Laura Loomer.
Oh, unfortunately. States. Yeah.
Yeah. Some guy created like a fake company, repackaged some dog biscuits, and then bought some ads on her like bought an ad read on her podcast that this was a new product that was a nutritionally dense treat for both humans and dogs, and paid her to eat them on air.
Oh my god.
Nobody's done that to us yet, but $100 is $100.
Depends how much it is.
It was $100. It was $100.
Laura Loomer dog biscuits is what I've just put in there.
Yeah.
Inside the Pro Mega pet company that convinced. Oh, that's pretty funny. That is
how
funny.
good.
Inside the Pro Mega pet company that convinced Laura Loomer to eat dog food. Doesn't even say biscuits. It says dog food. Go away. All right. Hey, I think we've got Aiden in the chat. We're going to go and have a quick chat with Aiden. No one else is in there, so that's fine. We'll then move on to the last part of the show. I guess if you'd like to have a chat with us on Discord, and you jump in literally right now, we can probably take, I don't know, no more than 10 minutes max total. Oh, yeah, there's a couple of people in there. Paul is in there as well, to say g'day, and and we'll catch up. So the calls aren't going to be too long, but you're welcome to have a bit of a crack. That's right. I just clicked on Aiden, but I'm supposed to drag you down like that. Aiden, speak to us.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Hey,
Chewie, you got that loud and clear? Yeah, cool. What's up, sir? Go for it.
Question has been on my mind. I'm still thinking about the hacker gate. So they were saying that Pāti interrupted the vote, which we can tell they clearly didn't, because everyone saw a vote before them.
Well, hang on, just pause there, Aiden. Just pause there, because there is discrepancy. Because they can claim that even though they'd said what their vote was, there's a process then to wrap it, and that's supposedly the end. I agree with you and what Chewie's been saying the whole time. That all the things.
I even emailed Arena Williams here.
Yeah.
Get clarification on that, because in her speech before they were sanctioned, she said, and that's a fact, that they did interrupt it.
Yeah, well,
I was quite annoyed at that, so I was like, can you please clarify? She never got back to me.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not an expert, and I can't necessarily clarify for you, dude, but I know that Judith Collins is part of the source, so, you know, take it with a bucket load of salt. But the argument from the side that's saying they did, quote unquote, interrupt is that you go, 6 votes, 5 votes, 25 votes, 40 votes, and then I think the speaker wraps it. So the speaker didn't have a chance to wrap it. So I agree with you and agree with Chewie that it doesn't feel like it's an interruption, but they do have an argument based on how it actually normally runs. We're going to leave it there, though. Aidan, thanks so much for jumping in. I know we're quick tonight, but we want to wrap up and finish correctly. We'll bring Paula across, and then say, kia ora, Paula, can you hear us?
Kia ora, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear, my
We
friend.
can.
Tēnā kōrua.
Tēnā koe.
Oh, okay, right, I set myself up. I just about that interrupting the vote thing.
Yep.
And ka tika kōrua, you're quite right about that. But just as a matter of interest, for if you watch the whole vote, Chloe actually stopped it twice. She stopped it twice, called a point of order, and Jerry Brownlee sat her down and said she was interrupting the vote.
Yeah.
So, and that was on this very same day, so. But I agree with you, it's just...
It's actually
bullshit,
it is bullshit, but it's also kind of yesterday's news, and
It is what it is,
nothing's
yeah.
going to change now. And I'm sure next year, when there's a different government and National will bitch and moan when exactly the same thing is done to them. So that just seems to be politics. But I'm sure that's not the only thing you've messaged us for, Paula. What else is going on?
Well, you just say what's happening in the week, and actually, I kind of want to talk about what's happened in the past 3 weeks. It's been 21 days, right, since Bomber's article about the darkest day in democracy in the House with the sanctions on that vote that day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I read Bomber's thing, and I was already triggered and wild then. So anyway, we kind of got a movement going. And so every day for 21 days, given that 3 electorates, 210,000 constituents don't have a voice in the House,
Yeah.
that's 3 electorates worth. I've sort of been contacting every single, 21 MPs, one each day.
Right. Gotcha.
The ones that
Oh, wow,
voted
okay.
against, supported has been sent, starting with Christopher Luxon,
Mm-hmm. Did you get any responses?
followed by Nicola, followed by Parmjeet, followed by, the raft of the celebrities, we all know who they are. I think maybe on the 7th day, sent one to Hannah to say welcome back to the House.
Yep.
Then got back on to Chris Bishop and the rest of them. Eventually got to Jerry Brownlee, the Speaker of the House, to talk about that very stuff article, which was, so I sent him the email pointing out the party seal and all the rest of it, letting him know concern for the safety of our female MPs in that House, all of those issues. And also very concerned the safety is even more real given it's the Deputy Prime Minister who was actually acting Prime Minister while he was doing all that harassment. So that email went to Jerry, then Louise Upston and Judith Collins. Interestingly enough, Nicola and Judith responded.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
It is. So Nicola responded saying, oh gosh, this is too big for my pay packet, so she forwarded it on to Jerry.
Yep.
So that's when I sent it to Jerry. And you already know what the issues are about what we're talking about, and I might even get to that. But then so I'm waiting for a response from Jerry. That's when I spoke to him. Judith Collins, however, God bless her, actually responded. And I challenged her on those very things about what are the actual standing orders. There's too much inconsistent reporting in the public arena. So I asked her for the actual final report from the Privileges Committee, the actual standing orders and all the rest of it. She did actually return that to me via the clerk.
Oh, okay.
And yeah. So to clarify, you can actually, the actual charge was, and I think that's already been out there, could have the effect of whatever it is.
All right.
Could have the effect of intimidating a member from performing their duties, I think was the charge. The could have effect was the question. There's a difference between have effect and actually you might be having effect. So that's all about the finger guns. I'm actually not really interested in their responses because the last one went to Tama Pōtaka.
Right.
Yeah. And given that Tama Pōtaka is from all 3 of those electorates, he's from Taihape, he's in Hamilton, which actually crosses all of those 3 electorates, Waikato, Hauraki, Waiariki, he's also from there, and of course, he's my cousin from the Rangitike. So, I sent him an email. It's the one email I actually, or they all started with tēnā koe e 10 minutes, blah, 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 in their positions. That one started with tēnā koe e te whanaunga. Then I sent him all 19 of the other emails so he could catch up with the play. And then I asked him one simple question, up to cars? And it ended there. So I'm probably going to bump into him at Takuta's tangi.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to have a bit of up to cars.
Well, just as we wrap up, because there's one other person who wants to have a chat, Paula, is there anything you want to speak to do with Takutai?
I do. That is where I wanted to go.
Yep.
I was supposed to do the last email tonight, but given the invite the other day, so mā koe tuku mihi, me oki tātou, mo te wahine kua rere atu ki te pō. Yeah, it's a very sad day for us back home. She was quite a vibrant woman, very connected to our family. I know her parents really well. We were in shock, but we knew she'd been sick since 2024. Which is why you actually haven't seen her visibly out there like the rest of the team. But she was there. I cannot believe she was in the house yesterday.
I know, it's maddening, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
That is crazy. And I think the timing that it's today, it's the 21st day today. So you raised the point earlier, Pat. That's why I rang, because you raised the point about all this talk about doing tikanga in the house and all of that happened today.
Yeah, I obviously I got a little bit grumpy at the start of the show and had to stop, but I think I've got my wits back about me now. It did make me angry, and we're going to play at the One News, but watching people from the other side of the island, I think Shane Jones is one of them, all showing emotion, all singing, and it's like, this is tikanga. This is actually you guys refused to allow in the house when it came to those MPs protesting. And now I'm going to be careful and respectful, because it's not about me and my anger. It's about Takutai and but it's disgusting that it feels a little bit, I don't know if you remember Paula or Chewie, but at the start of this governing term, when they shat on Māori so much, I asked the question a dozen times, why do Māori go and then support this government when they want to roll them out to do a haka for dignitaries? It's like, this government's shown no loyalty to Māori. Why are Māori showing any loyalty to this government? And it felt exactly the same kind of anger. It was like, this government has said, we are not going to have in this house a consideration for tikanga. And then what happened today? It was correct in its consideration for tikanga. I found it to be infuriating. It made me really angry watching that news story.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I was bewildered by it too, so yeah.
All right, Paula.
So ngā mihi kia kore. Tātou.
Lovely to hear from you. And we have got one other person in there as well, Colonel Kitta, I think it is, Colonel Kitta. Are you there, Colonel?
Kia ora. Good evening.
Good evening. What's your handle, Colonel? How do you say your second name?
How do I get you guys coming through?
Don't listen to us on the YouTubes. If you listen to us,
I can't hear you guys, unfortunately, for whatever reason.
Right. Well, if it doesn't sort itself out, we'll have to say goodbye quite quickly.
Let's play that.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is us.
I can hear you with a slight delay because I'm on the live. So how you doing?
Good. Why don't you just share your thoughts and we'll let you do it. Say what you want to say. This is the delay going through to YouTube. And then it comes
Share my thoughts. All right, excellent. Thank you. Sorry about the delay. I appreciate you having me on. First and foremost, full respect for what you guys do. You've inspired me to get into the media ecosystem myself and try and enhance leftist reach. So keep up the good work. You are inspiring people. The topic I want to talk about is, how far of a pushback do we want come next election? And the one that's kind of bugging my bear at the moment is David Seymour's actions. Basically, to me, it's intimidating the public not to submit against his bill. And if his standards are that the Te Pāti Māori are intimidating lawmakers and should be suspended for 3 weeks, like, what's intimidating the public against his bill? And is it too far to be like, he should be hauled in front of the regulatory committee and then kicked out of parliament? Like, is it too much, like, too retaliatory from the left next time, as just with the theme we've been talking about of we want a strong left? There you go. Thank you for your time.
We'll just leave it there because there's going to be a delay in the response anyway, Chewie. So let's just call that a day, shall we? Because we do have this last part of the show we definitely want to put out there. You know, our style is, I was going to say flamboyant. That's probably the wrong word, Chewie. Our style is quite chilled and laid back and a little bit.
I was going to say bombastic.
Bombastic, and we jump around a bit. But I have, yeah, I guess I say I pulled myself together from the start of the show, and I don't want to make this is not about me, it's not about us, it's not about anyone other than the person on screen right now, and I don't mean Simon Dallow, obviously. I think that I just let this play and we can watch it, and then I think I'll probably play, there's a 9-minute conversation with Debbie Nato-Apaka from 3. I think we'll play that as well, because what I didn't realise as well is today was the first day back from the 3-week suspension. So the first day back, this happens. So let's have a look at the news from tonight of the passing of Takutai Tarsh Kemp, dies age 50.
The death of Te Pāti Māori MP Takutai Tarsh Kemp sparked emotional scenes in Parliament today. Parliament gathered this afternoon with MPs from across the political divide, uniting to pay heartfelt tributes to their colleague. Kemp died at the age of 50 following a battle with kidney disease, and her death will trigger a by-election for the Māori electorate of Tāmaki Makaurau. Political editor Mikey Sherman reports.
Parliament in mourning once more.
Takutai, Moana.
The death of MP Takutai Moana Tarsh Kemp reverberating across the beehive. Today, her parliamentary colleagues sang for her. As MPs processed the news, their grief and shock was clear.
To hear this news it's truly shocking.
Takutai Tarsh Kemp was on dialysis, battling chronic kidney disease.
Still raw this morning to wake up to the devastating news of the passing of Tarsh, who was not just a colleague and a friend, but also a sister to us.
The MP was here at Parliament just this week. After flying back to Auckland last night, she died early this morning.
Tarsh, right to the bitter end, died as she lived, serving our people.
Kemp won the Tāmaki Makaurau electorate in 2023 after a fierce battle with Labour's Peeni Henare.
When you campaign together, when you work in a community together, you become more than colleagues. You become, she called me brother and I called her sister, and that's how it was.
And people would have thought that they would have been enemies forever, but their whanaungatanga ties them forever and a day.
The Prime Minister said his thoughts were with the MP's whānau, friends and the Tāmaki Makaurau community.
The government's deepest sympathies are, of course, with Takutai's whānau.
It marks the second MP to die this term, following the Greens' Whaanana Efeso Collins.
Tarsh led a life of service to South Auckland. Whaanana Efeso Collins was basically South Auckland as well, so yeah, this is hard for our communities.
Kemp was the former CEO of Manurewa Marae, the focus of allegations over the misuse of census data. She also led sexual health and suicide prevention education for young people and spent 20 years as the New Zealand Hip Hop International Director, making her an officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit.
A lot of them call me auntie, a lot of them call me mum.
When the times were quite heavy in the house, she was just that calming voice.
Takutai Moana Tarsh Kemp is survived by her 2 children and a mokopuna she loved dearly.
Grief and shock clear at Parliament there, Mikey. Plenty of emotion.
Yes, there was certainly a sombre mood here at Parliament today. Politics was put to one side as there was an outpouring of love and support from MPs across the House. As I mentioned there in my story, this is the second sitting MP to die while in office this term of Parliament. A number of senior MPs said to me today how unusual that is. So the grief is very much raw. Now, no political party today wanted to talk about what comes next in terms of a by-election. done, understandably. But of course, for clarity for our audience, that is the next step. The Speaker, at some point in the near future, he will declare a vacancy in the electorate of Tāmaki Makaurau. Then it will be up to the Prime Minister to determine an election date for that by-election. Of course, for now, though, the focus, again, is very much on Takutai Moana, Tarsh, Kemp and her whānau. She will lay at TPM Funeral Homes this evening. Tomorrow morning, she will go to Huani Waititi Marae so that her constituents in the Tāmaki Makaurau electorate can pay their respects. Then on Saturday, she will be taken home to her marae in Taihape. E te mārei kura takoto mai rā e moi.
Kia ora, Mikey. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, like you said, Chewie, it's unfathomable that she was at work yesterday. Like kidney dialysis, there was issues going on. It's not, I don't know if it's quite as black and white as what Paula painted before, because we're going to hear a conversation with Debbie, because apparently she was working, she was around a lot. She wouldn't stop. And she'd get dialysis from being around, like she'd book in dialysis and work around it. So she didn't, you know, I guess, hold back. I mean, I have to, first of all, say I know nothing about Takutai. I never spoke with Takutai. We never had her on the show. So it's nothing, there's no personal connection there. But yeah, when they put up then pictures again of Afiso Collins, you're like, oh God, you know, these people who are doing this work. And then it's just, I just don't get it. I don't get how you could be, even if you're not feeling right, but well enough to be at work yesterday, but your kidney failure hits you so hard that within kind of 12 hours of leaving work, you've passed. I don't get what was going
crazy.
On. It doesn't feel real. Doesn't feel real.
It's just very clear, and Officer Collins was another one that was just so plugged into their community, and like. That's the sort of person that I want in Parliament.
Yeah.
You know, someone that has come up through the community, that has their community in mind with everything that they do. So I think this is why losing another one just hits so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine the hole that leaves. In representation in the House. So,
and look, the parties didn't want to talk about this today, and it's not going to be a topic of conversation for us, but you know, it will be interesting when the time is right to figure out what's going to happen for the by-election. I think, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but she beat Penny by 47 votes. Now, what happens now? National won't put a candidate up? Does Penny try and get it again, or is there a respect thing where basically someone from Te Pāti Māori goes and they're unopposed, or what happens next is also a part of the conversation, which will be interesting. But I mean, either way, they were right not to talk about it today, but I guess it's something that the likes of us looking at the commentary think about. All right, we're going to do this thing with Debbie Ngāpuhi now. This is a 9-minute conversation. I watched it earlier. It's very good. It's very real. And this is the kind of thing that 3 News, I didn't see 3 News tonight, but might have taken a 40-second clip from. But I think it's worth watching the whole thing. And just so you know, tonight, we love you patrons, but I don't think we're going to go out with a big bouncy song tonight, just in case you were wondering. We'll just say goodnight at the end, and we'll wish you well for the weekend. So let's have a look at Debbie Ngāpuhi's conversation with 3 News tonight.
How do you remember Takutai, Kemp?
Takutai and I have a wakapapa connection and a aratana connection as well. So I always remember her for her wakapapa. She comes from a really big wakapapa in particularly in Ngāroru, the Kauika line. So, and she was raised by her kuia, so she always had this very old, calm way about her. So I always remember her as the weaver between us all, and the one that would stop and have the cup of tea, and the one that would make time to see that everyone was okay, even before she was. So, yeah.
And this must have come as a shock overnight. How is the Pāti doing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're broken. It was our first day back from suspension today, so we were all sort of a bit excited about that. And she'd had some of her best days. You know, she was really passionate about what she was doing, and she, you know, we thought actually she was doing much better. So, yeah, so we are just devastated. It's not what we expected to wake up to. So the Pāti's, no, we're just wahangu, we're just silenced with grief and devastation, obviously, for her mama who was here with her sister who also works here, her parents, you know, her son and her daughter and her moko who she just had here. Takutai was very, very whānau orientated. So yeah, we're just broken as a movement, and we're just all leaning into each other and sort of taking the impact. And I guess the hardest thing with this is that Takutai was so well known and so profiled that we actually have to have quite a openness about the rawness of our grief and things like that. So yeah.
And I apologise if it's a difficult question, but you know, this must have been challenging for you as her co-leader to guide Takutai through what must have been an incredibly challenging health battle. Yeah. How did you guide her through that while she's demanding while she's doing such a demanding job?
I think one of the things that Takutai refused to do from the moment that, you know, she got the shock of the diagnosis was to let it define her. You know, naturally, our first thing was to act as whānau and say, well, that's it. You know, we're worried about you. You know, you stop now. You know, it doesn't matter about the movement. You need to put yourself first and your whānau first. And she just fought us every step of the way. She was so passionate, not just for everything that she was doing on the ground, for having an understanding of whānau that aren't connected to their marae and hapu, living in urban life, for those who are struggling. She had a huge passion for rangatahi, always had kaumata around her. She loved manurewa marae. She loved there. And so she just fought us every step of the way and just said, no, I'm going to work it out. I'm going to you know, take my time off to get better. I'm going to fit my dialysis in. I'm going to get out on the road. And every time we tried to slow her down, she'd come back and take us on. And I think, you know, that was the tenacity, the true spirit of her. And, you know, in all of that, it was some of our roughest times because we've had, you know, they've come on with the new MPs with a different style of politicking and government. But she would never, ever let her well-being get in the way. At times would be, you know, not only as her whanaunga, and, you know, I've got to confront her hapu and her iwi, her whānau on the ground, because I still live in Taranaki, you know, and we'd be like talking over and, okay, that's it, finish, and we can do this. And she'd no, I've got your shift, Fire Deb, you need to go and do this. I've got your backs, co-leaders, you need to go and do this. She would take on everything and more if it meant that the movement was where it needed to be, because her love for the movement. She stood up in Tamaki Makaurau when no one else would, and she had some tough times, and she would never ever let that ever rock her love for her Pāti, for Te Pāti Māori. So, yeah, and I think one of the things I will say is that, you know, in case it's not obvious, there's some really strong personalities in Te Pāti Māori. You know, we represent huge electorates. We have different kaupapa that we're passionate about, and like a real whānau, you know, that has its own interesting, you know, fun and dynamics. She was the peacemaker, the smoother, the calmer, the you know, bring us all together, and the water that flowed between us would keep us united. And so, you know, it's, you know, that's really the spirit of who she was, and I think that depicts her being of Ratana, being Moehu, that depicts her being Ngāroru, Mokai Pātia. So,
quite incredible to see her in Parliament just yesterday. Is that who she was? Someone who showed up despite everything going on in her life?
She was that and more. And you know, we often don't talk about the quietest leaders. she would turn up when we said we were doing this. She fronted some, I mean, she had the whole, debacle of the stuff that we've seen come out of Brian Tamaki's camp and some really revolting politics. She never, ever, ever swayed from that. Even in her election process, we had to go back for a recount. She never, ever let the stress or any of that show in anything she did. She turned up beautifully. She behaved beautifully. And I think that was the mana and the dignity, the way that she carried herself and how you saw in Parliament is the way that she behaved in caucus, is the way that she behaved on the ground. She just showed up and showed up. And I think the hardest thing for today is realising she's not going to show up tomorrow. So, yeah. I know we politically go at each other because we know everyone here is there for their reasons and to serve their communities. From the moment that everyone has heard, we've had texts and messages and beautiful tributes to Takutai. It was really significant to come across here and see the flag down and to see the respect that the house is rising. And I'm really grateful for her and her whānau and for us to know that there will be acknowledgements of her today. But I personally am really keen to get up by her. We want to go by her and get by her.
And Tamaki Makaurau is a significant seat. Do you have a message to the people of her electorate, and is that a seat that Te Pāti Māori would like to hold on to?
My message to her people and to those who believed in her is that Takutai is passionate for not only you, but also her movement was recognising that no one else will look after them. No one else will make sure they're not left behind, make sure their voices and their faces are heard in this place. And I feel real aroha and gratitude to them for giving us the honour of her representing them and the honour of being beside us. She is more than a politician. She was a member of our whānau, and I know to all those in Tamaki Makaurau, she was, you were a member of her whānau too. So we all grieve together, and I think that's the most important thing today is to acknowledge that she was a servant for the people, and she falls doing what she loved most, which was serving her people.
Thank you. And my final question is, what details can you provide to us about where you go from here? Will there be a public acknowledgement of Takutai?
Yeah, I think at the moment, I think we've all, she has, whānau that are coming together. The hardest thing again is that, the reconciliation of her being so public and a servant for the public, and then also giving her whānau the privacy to be able to come together. They meet this afternoon and then they'll decide what to do, and we'll be with her all the way until we return her to her tupuna, and she will be one of the brightest stars in this new year, and we'll honour her for being one of the newest stars.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
No worries.
So there you go.
What a well done interview that was.
Yeah.
Just absolutely struck the right tone.
Yeah.
And yeah. No, well done.
Is there anything else you want to add, Chewie, before we say goodnight?
I do want to mention two things. I mentioned the melatonin and magic mushrooms thing. Also tied in with that was changes to how ADD and ADHD medication is prescribed. In the past, you've had to get a referral to a psychologist or psychiatrist or something like that to go through that. It's a long and lengthy process, and there's not enough people that can do it. They've loosened the restrictions, and now nurse practitioners and GPs. Now there's some disagreement whether it's all GPs or some specialised GPs. That might make it an easier pathway for people to get diagnoses on ADD. And ADHD, that is something that is a good piece of work. The other thing I want to mention is Craig Rennie's Locked Out podcast with Chloe Schwarbrick. Watched it before we went live tonight. Is excellent. is really, really good. So if you don't think there's been enough attention on the Greens' alternative budget and what their financial or fiscal plans are, I definitely recommend going and having a good listen to that. It is really, really good.
Nice. All right. As I said earlier, guys, it just feels like it would be wrong to go to here with a, albeit very cool but bouncy song. So we'll just say good night. Obviously, kids are in town tomorrow night. They'll take you through in bright, hairy news from 9 onwards. And Chewie and I will catch you 9 p.m. Monday night for the next edition of Big Hairy News. So we'll just say goodbye to everybody now. I know we normally get the chance to then do this at the end of the show and everyone says goodbye and it's all lovely and we love it as well. But yeah, tonight we'll just say goodnight. Just do a few of them like this. Just do a few. There we go. Just a few. There we go. There's a few. That'll do. That'll do. That'll do. All right, team. Chewie and I will catch you Monday night. Yeah, hug a loved one. You know, you just never know. You just never know what tomorrow may or may not bring. Seems the thing that Debbie got most emotional in that conversation with was it doesn't feel like it was the news we were supposed to get waking up this morning. You just never know. And if you're not feeling well, don't hesitate going to the doctor. Get yourself checked out. Look after yourself. We expect to see all of you back here on Monday night from 9 p.m. for our next edition of Big Hairy News. Have a good weekend, team. See you later.
Cheers, fam.